I love it that I can't get you guys to stop talking, which is wonderful. That's like the best. That's what I want. That's what I want to happen here. So welcome. Who here is new? And this happens a lot. Okay. So welcome. And people come here in a wide variety of ways, and we actually sold out honestly within like 24 hours. And so it's been great to see that people really, this is a topic with taking better care of ourselves, which really is kind of the theme of the Wise and Wonderful Women, taking care of ourselves, empowering and inspiring each other. So I just want to give you a little bit of backstory about it because a lot of you are new. So I am a real estate broker. I'm known as Annie Gets It Done. And I am a single divorced mom. And I always advertised in the movie theater and then in the taxi cabs. And so one day I was shooting an ad and I said, you know what? I really am going to stop advertising real estate. I'm going to start looking for a man. And so I came up with this ad that said, if you love your mother and still don't live with her, but I was going to put it in the taxis, and I went to, and then all of a sudden I said, you know what, I got to change it. And I went back and I refilmed it, and it said, if you, I'm Ann Capillanet, aka Annie Gets It Done. I've sold billions of dollars worth of New York City real estate, but the one thing I haven't been able to get done is to find a single divorced dad to remarry. You might think it's easy, but it's not. So if you've got a kind and generous soul and love your mother, but still don't live with her, and can appreciate a fit and fabulous 56-year-old woman, feel free to give me a call. Game changer, because the male ad guy didn't want to put it in, and I went to the other person, I put it in, and it went viral. And so 15 million people around the world, it was in China and Russia, and I was in the teleprompter in Times Square in America. It was crazy. And so what happened is that women, not the men, it was like, in New York City, it was like an 82-year-old, a 22-year-old, it was like, people in Iowa, like, it was like, right, with guns. Everybody had a gun that was interested, or in jail. So it was all good. But anyway, in New York, it didn't pan out. But what did come out of that was women around the country writing to me and saying, and in New York, and it still happens at least once a week. Okay, so they'll say, that was just so, and the word was brave. It kept coming up and up. And I said, well, why is it brave? And I said, because they said I was looking for love, and they said, yeah. And I said, because they said I was 56. Yes. So anyway, I had just moved into this building, and this room was here, and it was waiting for you guys. So out of that came the Wise and Wonderful Women. So even through COVID, we've done it virtually. We have these wonderful speakers, and I am so excited because, you might want to ask me, like, has it worked? Like, do I wake up with a man every morning? And I do, and he's here tonight. Every morning you are in my bed, Bob. Okay. You might not know it. So anyway, we'll get to that later. But anyway, so I am so grateful to you because both of my speakers have been life changers for me, like really lifesavers for me. So anyway, so I want to thank you all for coming and stepping into this room. And one of the things that I do is to make sure that there's bios. And the bios are here for two reasons. Okay, who lives on the Upper East Side? Raise your hand. Okay, look at each other, go home with each other. Okay, this isn't a setup, but this is to share a taxi. And that's why I ask you where you live on those bios. Okay, so, and the other thing is, because I want you to be able to feel connected when you walk into the room. But also, every night when I read these the night before, I'm blown away at all of you. And this is like one of the wonderful things about Bob, if you join his global Zoom meditation, is that he has these kind of quirky little things that he starts my day off with. And just kind of little things that kind of don't go together, but they do. And so when I'm reading the bios, I'm like, okay, look, in this room we've got CEOs, world travelers, educators, llama owners, yoga, yogis, cancer survivors, ministers, Linda, coaches, medical doctors, meditators, future meditators. We've got Alana, who's the fastest backstroker in her name in the tri-state area. Okay. We've got Quinn. She was a Shark Tank finalist. Yeah. Dawn Schmidt, founder of the Smutty Book Club. Raise your hand. Alita St. James, and at the time, was the oldest woman in the country to have twins, and is a great energy healer right here. And Catherine Webster. She's the first blind Harvard business grad, sitting right in front. Queen. There she is. I'm very dear friends with her mother, and we're very proud of our daughter. So my daughter is sitting right in the back. That's Jackie Lene. So anyway, Bob, I want to thank you because there is a global Zoom meditation, and through COVID, it was like, I know, very, very, very reassuring to me. So let me one other housekeeping thing. What is on your tables? Okay, there's a bunch of info on here. Everybody have a phone? I'm going to ask you for one favor, okay? There's a couple of things. One is there's our next group is a patient advocator. She's amazing. She spoke a couple years ago, backed by popular demand. That's on the 21st. We will send you out invitations. Obviously, make sure to RSVP quickly. Stay in touch if you want to follow my insane life on Instagram. Go ahead and do it. It's definitely entertaining. And then on the back here is Impact 100. It's a fantastic group. Any woman that has a little pink little star on her name tag, actually raise your hands. Any Impact members, okay? These are, it's joint giving, so all the women give $1,000, and it's collective giving to help nonprofits in the New York City area. It is a great organization. I encourage you to find more information out about it there. And last but not least, I clean the Upper West Side. I use 2 people now who were formerly homeless who need this program to keep going. We are up for a grant, and I can only get the grant if the votes come in for me, okay? Because there's a bunch of people up for grants. Can you all vote like tonight for me, please? Okay, I really, really appreciate it. Just use the QR code. All right, thank you very much. Okay, so let me introduce you to our speakers. Dr. Suzanne Steinbaum is a board-certified cardiologist with a private practice on East 36th Street. She was also the director of women health programs in 3 different hospitals, but left to start a company called Femtech and developed a software called Adesso that delivers life-saving diagnostics and treatment strategies. Her book, Dr. Suzanne Steinbaum's Heart Book, Every Woman's Heart Book, Every Woman's, there's a word missing, guide, thank you, to a heart healthy life is a must read. She's appeared on Good Morning America, The Today Show, and is a scientific advisor and advocate for the work of the David Lynch Foundation. So come on up here. And David Lynch. And Bob Roth. Okay, Bob Roth is the CEO of the David Lynch Foundation and author of many books, including The Strength and Stillness, and over his 50-year career has taught and consulted with tens of thousands of people Transcendental Meditation, including Hugh Jackman, Oprah, Tom Hanks, Katy Perry, Gwyneth, and so many more. He's appeared on way too many podcasts to count, TV shows, radio shows, and he speaks around the globe on the importance and the profound impact of TM. Thank you so much for being here, because I know you have spoken to so many people, so I'm just going to put this in your hands, with the question of what is TM and why is it different than other meditation?
First of all, it's wonderful to be here. She's a very funny woman. How many of you here have learned some form of meditation?
Wow.
And how many people people would say do it fairly regularly? And how many people would like to be doing it more than fairly regularly? Yeah. So I was thinking, I feel a little funny starting to talk because Dr. Suzanne Steinbaum can put this all into perspective. So I'm going to do this very short, and then if it's okay, turn it over to Dr. Steinbaum, who is a dear, dear friend of mine. Why is there so much interest in meditation? And I think that there's three main reasons. I think we do live in more stressful times than we ever have. For a while, people say, well, we're just more aware of the stress. It's not more stressful. But doctors tell us that, and particularly our kids, we see it in our kids, which gives us more stress, the 24/7 social media. So the problem of stress is greater than ever, and our understanding of the impact of stress is greater than ever. Number two, there is no magic pill, magic bullet pill that we can take that gets to the core cause of stress. We can take antihypertensive medications that can manage high blood pressure. We can take drugs that manage insomnia, anxiety, depression, but didn't get at the root cause. And we mask it with alcohol and drugs, but we're not getting to the root cause. So that's the second reason. And the third reason why I believe there's so much interest is that there's so much research, more than ever, and it is compelling, solid, phase 2, phase 3 clinical trials published in peer-reviewed journals. Meditation is now in all the, I don't have to tell you more than that. So briefly, and then more later, according to science, there's 3 major types of meditation. And they know that on the basis of EEG and brain scans. Because we know that every distinct experience we have impacts our brain in a distinct way, discrete way. If I listen to classical music, it has one effect on my brain. If I listen to heavy metal music, another effect on my brain. If I watch a rom-com, one effect on my brain. If I watch a David Lynch horror film, another effect on my brain. So they have all these people doing different meditations, and it turns out there's 3 basic types. One is called focused attention, and I'll go more into this later, but that's a concentration form of meditation where we try and clear our mind of thoughts. Very difficult to do. It creates something, and I'm going deep dive on the science here. It creates something called gamma brain waves, which is 20 to 50 cycles per second. Really, we're working hard. The second type is open monitoring. That's mindfulness meditation. That's dispassionately observing our thoughts and our moods and our feelings. Both of these are cognitive approaches to meditation. And the third type is self-transcending. And self-transcending or transcendental meditation is significantly different than the other 2 approaches in that it provides access to a field of calm that already exists deep within every one of us, even right now. And when we experience that, whole constellation of changes that take place in the brain. That is not really answering your question, but I talked a long time.
No, that's perfect.
It's really interesting. I love it. Yes.
But if I may,
Go right ahead.
have you seen difference in the need for meditation? And, tell us.
While I'm listening to you, we've been doing this since 2008. He and I have been on panels together since 2008. And when we met, it was all of Wall Street coming into my office as a cardiologist with chest pain, shortness of breath, insomnia. I didn't know what was going on, but I knew Wall Street was coming to my office. And I called my dad and I said, I think something's happening at the stock market.
It was 2008.
It was 2008. And the somatization, the stress. They were mostly guys and they were coming in really tortured. And I realized after talking to them, I could give them blood pressure medication, I can give them sedatives, antidepressants, anti-anxiety, but it was a Band-Aid. It wasn't fixing the issue. And nothing I could do could fix the issue. And at that time, it was Barbara Walters was doing a special. Remember the Zipper Club? And the Zipper Club was a group of men who, celebrity, they all had open heart surgery, and they all saw Bob as a meditation teacher. And they talked about him. And the producer of that show came to me and asked me to be part of this to talk about prevention. I'm really a preventive cardiologist. And while he was in the middle of interviewing me, he was interviewing him. And he said, "You gotta go talk to Bob." So I went over to talk to him. I said, "Gee, I'm really interested in this. I've heard about it, and I'm seeing patients like this. I'm finding that I don't need to meditate. And I don't get it."
That's always the first line. Not for me. Yeah.
It makes total sense for the other people. And at the time, I was going through a horrible divorce and probably needed it more than all my patients put together, which Bob identified within the first 30 seconds of meeting me. But what we thought was a stressful time then has incredibly escalated into where we are today. And our conversation and our panels, quite frankly, I feel like they get deeper, they get more complicated. I think the subject behind this is more intense. We used to talk about the NIH having $26 million of funding for Transcendental Meditation. The Journal of the American College of Cardiology wrote a step-by-step way of implementing Transcendental Meditation scientifically. I read this like I thought they were kidding. Like, this is meditation in the Journal of the American College of Cardiology. And it was. And what they did was demonstrate that in multiple different ways, and by the way, in 2017, the American Heart Association had a scientific statement about meditation and cardiovascular risk, but it took all of this time for them to be able to say, looking at meditation compared to medication, there was a 30% reduction in blood pressure. And all of the other pieces, Bob's talking about the brain waves. There's concordance of the brain waves. There's an improvement of sleep, reduction in blood pressure. There is this sense that intangibility that you can't really describe of no more spikes in how you feel, but there's an evenness to your days in a different way that you can actually explain until you do it. But it wasn't until COVID that I think even you, I'm speaking for you now, realized this is something that we need to get out there now. This is now a survival game, right? And I'm gonna do this every morning. I mean, what he put into making sure that there was access to meditation is heroic, quite frankly, what he did.
Which we have to explain because they don't know, but I'll let you do that, good.
Because it was more about the need is greater than it's ever been, and we don't have the tools. And here is a tool that we can provide everyone that they can do every single day, twice a day for 20 minutes, that reduces blood pressure, reduces the risk factors, enables them to sleep, gets rid of those spikes in adrenaline that causes all of the things that are bad for us, driven by inflammation. And the craziest thing about this tool is that we all have access to it, we just have to do it.
But that's the thing. So I want to stop you there because as a complete crazy person, type A, and because I would come to your office and you're like, this is scary. Like I have really high cholesterol. My readings
She
were
gave me
off the
chest
chart.
pain.
No, really. It was like something's going to happen to you. Really, truly. What I needed was I have a SoulCycle bike at the end of my bed, and I've got a 3,500 square foot gym here. If I don't have a time to be someplace, I will never go. I never go. So during the pandemic, when you started this meditation, and it's at many different times during the day, and I mean through the night, I mean, I think I did it at 4 o'clock this morning. It's there and you're waiting for me and I have to get there and it's made me do it. But the other thing about TM, and I think we all know, like, I think that, like, we know the data and we know that we should all, what kept me from it originally was that I felt like, well, I can't get rid of the stress. I can't get rid of the stress, so I can't do it. And I certainly can't sit there and not think about it. But TM gave me permission to try to go back. And if you could just, I think we just want to start with what it is, because it gave me permission to not have to do it in a particular way. And I was able to then do it. So if we just start with what it is.
So the analogy I like to use is a cross-section of an ocean. You have choppy waves on the surface. Bless you. Choppy waves on the surface, but there's a vertical dimension to the ocean, and there's silence at its depth. So the analogy is to the mind. Surface of our mind is that choppy, some people call it the monkey mind. I like to call it the gotta mind. I gotta do this, and I gotta do that, and I gotta call him, and I gotta call her, and I gotta make a list, I gotta find the list, I gotta make a new list. I gotta slow down, I gotta get going, I gotta get to sleep, I gotta get back to sleep, and I gotta get up. Who doesn't have a gotta mind? We all have that. So it's a natural human desire to say, I'd like some inner calm, some inner clarity, some inner ease. Here's a big one. Some inner connectedness to myself. Someone says, how are you doing? And you don't even know who the you is. The mom, this, that. I've lost that you a long time. That connectedness. Inner. So the operative word there is inner. And the question is there such a thing as an inner? And if so, how do we get there? And I'm going to revisit for a moment with this diagram, because many people have tried different types of meditation. Going back to that, there's 3 different types, as I said. That focused attention. The approach to focused attention is, using the analogy, I want to have a calm ocean. What disrupts the calm ocean? Waves. If I could stop the wave, I'd have a calm ocean. I like a calm mind. What disrupts my calm mind? Thoughts. If I could stop my thoughts, I'd have a calm mind. When I do that, gamma will break. Second, open monitoring. And again, that's observation. That's, according to open monitoring, and this is quick, but according to open monitoring says, it's not thoughts that necessarily disrupt the calm. It's the content of thoughts that disrupt the calm. So if I have a thought about a guy named Joe, and I don't really know anybody named Joe, but I know a guy named Joe, and he done me wrong, and I think about Joe, right? So open monitoring teaches me to be in the present. Don't go back 5 years ago, or 10 or 20 years ago when Joe done me wrong. Don't go back. Be in the present moment. It's dispassionately observing your thoughts, your moods, your feelings. And that does something called theta brain. So now, finally, to answer Anne's question, what is Transcendental Meditation? Transcendental Meditation is that recognizing that there's a vertical dimension to the mind, like the ocean has a vertical dimension. And Transcendental Meditation gives access to quieter and deeper levels of my own mind. I remember telling that to a Wall Street guy, and he said, what do you mean quieter levels of the mind? And I said, you have an intuition? Yeah. Somebody comes up to you with an investment idea, and it makes perfectly good sense on the surface, And then you get home and you think about it quietly and you go, yeah, I don't think so. And someone says, why don't you want to do it? And you say, doesn't feel right. You had that? Doesn't feel. That's a quieter level of the mind. Doesn't feel. You couldn't have that intuition at a sports bar. When you get home quiet, then you can feel that. So the hypothesis with Transcendental Meditation is even deeper than that. We all have a level where our mind is all, right now, already settled, quiet, wide awake. It's not something we have to believe in. You can be 100% skeptical. That's healthy. It's not something you have to visualize. We've just lost access. And what Transcendental Meditation does, it's a simple, natural, effortless technique practiced for 20 minutes twice a day, optimally, where you sit comfortably in a chair. You don't have to sit in some difficult position. You sit comfortably in a chair. And through the use of a mantra, which is just a fancy word for a word or a sound that has no meaning, a couple of syllables, that your certified TM teacher would give you. And you use that sound not as a battering ram to push out thoughts, to concentrate on. You use it as a catalyst that just turns the attention of the mind within and without any effort whatsoever. I teach 10-year-old children with ADD. I teach children with some schizophrenics who can't close their eyes for more than 15 seconds. Now, I work with them, but anyone can do this. There is any human being can do this. What I like to call it, the democratization of meditation. Everyone has access to it. That single mom in the Bronx, I run a foundation, David Lynch Foundation. We brought this for free to 1 million inner city school kids, veterans. We work with NYPD and FDNY. We're in 44 hospitals in New York City, giving it for free to healthcare workers in emergency rooms and intensive care units. All religions love this. A tool that accesses a mechanism in the brain and the nervous system to take profound rest at will. And that deep rest reduces cortisol levels by 30 to 40%. If you get a good night's sleep, it drops 10%. It reduces high blood pressure. Dr. Suzanne can tell you all of that. But basically, it's a tool, a meditation that is not taught out of a book. It's not taught online. You have a teacher who works with you to make sure you have it and answers your questions. And it's an amazing thing. I've been teaching it for a very long time. And people often say, I'm skeptical. I could do this. And I'm not skeptical that it produces results. I'm skeptical that I could do it because my mind wanders. I have a busy mind. I have a type A mind. I'm all over the place. I can't do it. And the joy of transcendental meditation is you don't have to stop the mind from wandering. Can I say that?
Yes, go, because that's right.
So here's the thing. How do I get from here? Does this make sense? What I'm doing? How do I get from here to here? Not here and stopping waves, but to settle down to areas of the mind that are right now. Doesn't matter how tsunami-esque it is on the surface. Right now, it's there, quiet. How do I get to that effortlessly? Well, some people say the mind wanders. It's a monkey. You have to control it. You're sitting in a room and you're listening to some of the worst conceivable music. Just somehow it's just on. And you're too busy. And in the other room, some fabulous music comes on. Where's your attention go? Turn that off. Turn that off. A friend gives you 2 books to read on a vacation. The first book, dreadful. You can't read a page. Second book, fabulous. Hours go by. Ever had that? Hours go by. Now what is that? Your attention drawn to that music, your attention absorbed in the book, key to practice of transcendental meditation. It's given the opportunity, our mind will naturally be drawn to something more satisfying, more delicious, more pleasurable, more fragrant, more beautiful. Easy to watch a great movie. Try watching a bad one. So the mind goes towards that. In transcendental meditation, we learn how to give the attention of the mind in inward direction, simple with this mantra, and without any effort whatsoever. Automatically, your active thinking mind begins to settle down. And when your mind settles down, your body gains a state of rest in many regards deeper than sleep. And that same Wall Street guy, when I said your mind settles down to this state of inner calm, he said, that sounds weird. Where am I going? What's happening? And I said, he said, how do I know when my 20 minutes are up? And I said, look at your watch. You're not going anywhere. You're just settling down. Just like you could have a kid or a partner, yourself can go, like from 0 to 100. Well, it turns out the nervous system can go the other way. And that's what we're harnessing when we do TM. And I would have to say, there are thousands of medical doctors who practice TM in this country and who talk about it. And this woman has been as instrumental or more instrumental than any one of them for helping to clarify what transcendental meditation is and also just illuminate its benefits. So, did that answer your question? Mm-hmm. Okay, well, thank you.
Very gracious. The one thing that's fascinating about what Bob is describing is if we think about our lives, we are running on the fight or flight mechanism. We are running with adrenaline and this cortisol and this inflammation and our heart rates and shortness of breath and just all of the things that we have to do. And now we have to be on Zoom calls on top of it, like just the added insanity of our lives. What meditation does, and the way that I always say it's prescribed the same way as a medication, 20 minutes twice a day, is it stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system, the vagus nerve. So it keeps us in this state of rest. It prevents us from having heart rate spiking and our becoming short of breath and having our blood pressure go up, even when we're not meditating. And the key to meditation, yes, you're in the moment and feeling all of this, but it's when you're not meditating that it becomes so incredibly powerful. Now, if I give a medication, it's going to lower your blood pressure, but is it going to prevent you from having that surge, that stress surge? No, there's nothing that really can do that short of lobotomy. I mean, I don't know. But to have this tool that enables you to be in that resting state, and this isn't to say you're brain dead.
Sure.
You're the opposite of that because you can actually think instead of react. When you can actually process instead of become inflammatory, it's a very different world to live in. And so meditation is giving an infrastructure to your life that enables you to be in control of it and to shut off that fight or flight mechanism that is really so dangerous and harmful.
It puts you down at the bottom of the ocean. It brings you down there where everything's not moving you around and you're able to kind of see what's going on and not be so reactive, because as you come out of it, because I don't do the second one, I definitely should, and my office will tell you I should, is that when you get farther away from when you've meditated, you start to kind of come up and you're starting to react to those waves because things are moving around. Does that make sense? That was the only way that it really made sense to me. And to not like all the crazy is going on here, but you're not just moving with it. You're just more centered. How do you start? Because I know I really pushed back. I'm like, listen, I could just look at a video. I could do this myself. I tried it, and then I really pushed back, and you pushed me to go to your foundation. What does a person do? How do you start? Because it's important to have a teacher.
Can I say one thing?
Yes.
So I want to make something very clear because I get, I didn't want to convey this, I get uncomfortable when I feel someone's like pushing me. Oh, my meditation is the best, and your meditation. That's not what we're talking about here. It turns out that different meditations have different benefits, just like different medicines have different benefits. So mindfulness approaches to meditation, cognitive approach has, no question, has benefits. What Transcendental Meditation does is it provides this effortless, accessible, very profound rest at will, and the kinds of changes that take place in the brain and the nervous system and the body are distinctly different from other approaches. That doesn't mean that some people will say, well, I do this and I don't do that. And it's not an either or. It's a yes and. Because we need more tools and evidence-based tools in our toolbox that can help us in any different situation. And if I teach a 12-year-old kid who suffers from high anxiety, and she or he loves the meditation and does the meditation in the morning, and has an exam at 1 o'clock, and doing better from the meditation, but if there's a simple breathing thing that nobody has to see that child do for 30 seconds or a minute before the exam starts, that's a tool in the toolbox to help calm the sympathetic or the fight or flight. So I want to make that point clear, that it's not, oh, I do this. Don't be narrow like that. And if you've tried some form of meditation and it hasn't worked, then don't quit. Don't quit on that. To learn this, it's taught in personal instruction. It takes about an hour and 15 minutes a day over 4 consecutive days. It's a nonprofit organization. And then once you've learned it, then there is a follow-up program for the rest of your life that's included when you learn. And what Anne has been talking about is one day, before COVID, one day a week on a Saturday morning or a Sunday morning, I used to let people know who meditated. If you want to call in on Sunday at 9 o'clock or after church or wherever you are at 9 o'clock, then we'll do a little group meditation. You meditate on your own. It's not a guided meditation, but you just start at a certain time and I keep time. And I did that for like a year or so, and then COVID came up, and someone said, well, Bob, why don't you do this? COVID's not going to last. Why don't you just do this for like 2 weeks? And then they said, do it on Sunday, and then do it morning, and then do it on Wednesday evening. And it was so complicated. I said, I'm just going to do it for 2 weeks. Morning, 7 o'clock in the morning, weekdays, and 6 o'clock in the evening. Just going to do it. And it's a lovely thing. It's called The Genius of Nature. So I talk for 5 minutes about anything.
Ants.
Yeah. Anything in nature that we would never take the time to understand. And what it is it's not heavy. Sometimes it's deep and profound about consciousness and about what the Greeks said, about 8 different types of love, agape, all the interesting things. And sometimes it's just a nice 5-minute transition from the crazy of what you've just been doing. So anyway, so you talk for 5 minutes, meditate for 20 minutes, and then end with some really lovely quotes. Well, I did it for 2 weeks, and then it's now 4 years, almost 4 years. And twice a day, and then Mike replays it in the morning throughout the day, and then in the evening he replays that, and it's free, and anybody can sign up for it, and you don't have to do TM. Most people do it because it's that nice to do. I'm going to give you my personal email address, which you can email me if you want to know about this or have any questions. It's Bob Roth at BOBROTH.
We'll send it,
Okay,
we
never
didn't put
mind.
it on the sheet, but when we send out a thank you for everything,
That was too thorough.
no, I mean, you can write it down, but we'll also send it out, I just want you to know if you missed it. We send it out in the thank you for coming and also for your book, which I have listened to, which was great. And I just want to say one thing, regarding COVID, I think, if I remember correctly, that you initially thought you wanted to go into politics, right? And I was thinking as I was driving in the snow, listening to you, that you ended up helping so many more people by doing what you're doing. I mean, really profoundly changing people's lives, and especially during COVID, because it was just such a crazy, dark time. And I really always felt that when I was on those calls, that it wasn't the same as doing it by myself. I really felt that there was this collective energy that was there, especially with that 7 and 6, because now it's more. But I want to thank you, and I just think it's so cool because you have become, in its best sense of the word, a person that has helped, made the world a better place.
I worked for Bobby Kennedy when I was a kid, and then when he was assassinated, I wanted to be a U.S. senator like him and change the world. And I grew up in that sort of political. It wasn't like left or right, but just you did something to make a better world. And it took me about a month at university to realize politics in those days was not going to heal the soul of the nation. My dad was a doctor and my mom was an educator, and so I thought, okay, well, I'm not going to go into politics. Maybe I'll write educational curriculum and give tools to kids who, at that early age, even way back when, could use to help navigate a very stressful world, particularly if you know San Francisco, South San Francisco, or Oakland, these tougher areas. So I was going to school full time and I was working full time, and there was riots in the streets, for Vietnam War, and I wasn't a druggie, and I just wanted to make a better world. And Christmas Carol.
What is happening?
And I'm sorry, this is a tangent, but I was pretty stressed, and a guy who I respected said he was doing something called Transcendental Meditation. I said, I don't believe in it. I'm my father's son. I said, I'm a skeptic, and I still am a skeptic. I'm not a cynic. Cynics don't get out of bed. But, skeptic wants to show me. And he said, you don't have to believe in it, the meditation. And he had a pen, and he dropped the pen into his hand. He said, you don't have to believe in gravity for the pen to fall. You don't have to believe in this meditation for it to work completely as well as anything. So I learned it. And after just a couple of days, I remembered having a thought, maybe this is a tool I would teach those kids. And I'm going to date myself here. That was June 28th, 1969.
Wow.
And I'm 73. And I run a foundation, and we brought it to 1 million kids for free. And we want to bring it to
With post-traumatic stress.
Yeah, we're working with the VA, and we're actually studies going on now at Mount Sinai and Northwell Health and Columbia and Stanford and USC on veterans, police, and firefighters and PTSD. And the results of that study will be used to incorporate TM into the healthcare system, so that anyone, including families of vets with PTSD, will be able to learn covered by their insurance carrier.
Oh, that's great.
You guys think about a lot in this book. Is that for so many decades, Bob, the David Lynch Foundation, the organization has been really trying to do this, to get this out to veterans, to really treat people who need it the most. Kids in schools, they've had a whole program in schools. But I think it wasn't till COVID, till all of these hospitals jumped on board. It wasn't until that moment where they're like, we need something. Because the medical staff was falling apart. Everybody was falling apart. And the fight to say, hey, maybe we should provide help did not actually come until this really difficult time. For me during COVID, having left the hospital, I realized either I was going to stay in a system because that system was, for me, in a box, not bringing in all these alternative things, not bringing in this holistic approach to care, that I wanted to do something that all women could have access to health, wellness, and well-being. And so I launched a technology company, a platform for women's cardiovascular health, wellness, and well-being. And one of the most amazing things is that Bob Roth, the David Lynch Foundation, the tm.org, they're on our platform because we are not just delivering how to eat, how to sleep, how to exercise. We're teaching people self-care. And part of that self-care is TM. So for me, from 2008 to sit here with you, he's done all the work that they set forth to do, and with his help, so have I. And it's really about changing health and well-being for every single human being we can touch, and I think that's really where we see eye to eye.
Can I?
I want to say something. I'm the only XX chromosome.
No, Noel's back there in it.
Oh, no. Fellow XX. I mean, XY. XY. There's something else. And you work so hard, so much pressure, and you work, and you want to get to the top, you want to be successful. And I think what this meditation does, what the transcending does, is it protects or keeps awake that inner value of our own self. You get somewhere, you see so many people, I see it more men, maybe women, you get to the top, are they enjoying anything? They're just stressed. And what's that? And so I think there's, in addition to reducing cortisol, in addition to doing all these things, it's just that value of connection to your own self and keeping that, your own sensibilities, your own, it's going to sound strange, but just sort of innocence for life, appreciating life, being in the moment. It's a tender quality that we don't want to lose. Some people, my gender, maybe never had it or need to work for it, but, and apologize if I'm making assumptions here, but it's just that tenderness and appreciation of life. No matter what happens outside of us, changes, people, so much change, relationships change, bodies changing, jobs change. What do we need? We have to be connected to ourselves, to that something. Otherwise, what's it for? So we can help our kids live a better life? Yeah, that's great, but what about us also leading a better life? So when you think about meditating, when you think about transcending, I think one of the most valuable things is protecting that, cultivating that, making it powerful, making it resonant, your own self. And that, this time, even more, you deserve it. As they say, you want to live 200% of life. 100% outer, fabulous. All that, not at the expense of 100% inner. Not at that expense. So, I don't know if I worded that properly, but I think that's something we want to, all of us want to protect. Just like we want to protect it in our children, we want to protect it in ourselves. So, anyway.
There was a really interesting study. So he's taking it from the depths of our soul in a very deep way. I'm going to take the same conversation to the most superficial. When there was a trial done looking at telomere length. You know what that is in a cell? And it showed that for people who meditated for greater than 10 years, they had longer telomeres. So they look younger. I was like, what? I'm so glad I'm going to stay young inside forever, but wait.
Yeah.
And there was this amazing study that actually showed that longevity, vitality. So in giving these talks and walking into a room, I used to walk in the room and I'd see who was the meditators in the room. And they were always the people with the brightest eyes, the shiniest skin, the glowing hair. And I'd be like, okay, we're going to feel young inside, but I'm going to say we're going to look really good on the outside too. Because there is something about it that really does do that. And I think it's a relevant part of the story that forever youthfulness, right?
I'm going to open this up. Hold on a second. I'm just going to open this up to a Q&A, but I want to, because we've got about 10 more minutes, because I know you have to get up super, super early. I just want to say, it is so, can you just tell us stats real quickly about women dying of breast cancer and women dying of heart disease? Because heart disease, especially, like, both of these wonderful human beings are talking about being good to yourself. And so many women have a really hard time. We put everybody else in front of ourselves. And it's so, so, so important for you to take care of yourselves. But in terms of prevention of heart disease, just because we're running out to get mammograms, just tell the stats, because this is really powerful.
This makes me bananas. So I started 20 years ago working with the American Heart Association as a spokesperson for Go Red for Women, which is their arm for education and empowerment. So it began 20 years ago. This is the anniversary. And the statistics at that time were 1 in 3 women will die of heart disease. One woman every 80 seconds will die of heart disease. So I've been working for 20 years, taking care of women and writing books and going out and speaking. And guess what? 1 in 3 women are dying of heart disease.
And
I just got yesterday,
and how many die of breast cancer?
1 in 33. I got yesterday the updated stats for women in heart disease. And I always get really excited when it comes in from Go Red. 1 in 3 women are still dying of heart disease. It is mind-blowing to me because 80% of the time it's preventable. 1 out of 3 for heart disease, 1 out of 33 for breast cancer. I'm so grateful that every woman got the message about their mammograms. But it's time we get the message about our hearts. And it's not about treatment, it's about prevention because 80% of the time it's preventable. Let's not be reactive, let's be proactive.
And you need to call her. She will change your life. No joke. Like really, really, really. Because I was at Kripalu this weekend before the pipes burst. That's another story. On my meditation weekend, it's very relaxed. Anyway, I was sitting with a group of women, and we were talking about. And they said, "My cardiologist says that I don't need any scans because I don't have any heart disease in my family." I'm like, have you ever had a calcium score? Have you ever? I mean, like, it was insanity to me. I said, absolutely, you have to come to New York. But anyway, I'm going to open this up to a Q&A because I know we have to get you guys out. We have time for maybe 2 or 3 questions. Alita, you go ahead.
All right, so I'm into agelessness, age reversal. I'm 76. I had kids at 57, and I'm still going strong. I have as much energy as I did when I was 40. And when they asked me, what's going to happen when you're, in your 70s and your kids are 19, and I said, I'm going to look better then than I do now. And I do. So, but my point, Suzanne, that I'm really interested because it's all about information and getting your information down. And I've meditated and done a lot of work in my life. And I'm an energy healer and a life coach. And I'm older than you are, Bob. I'm older than you
And you
are.
both fabulous.
All right. You were saying processing rather than inflammatory. Now, could you explain that? Because I think that's fascinating. Because I'm, my work and energy healing and release emotional work and all that. I understand that in the mental, physical, and emotional bodies. But what were you meaning processing rather than
It's
inflammatory?
funny you would pick up on that. You know, so this is so not from the cardiology side,
Yeah.
sort of.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a personality type. We used to say that people who had type A personalities were more likely to have heart disease. I mean, and this was in the 80s. And what that translated to is this reactiveness, this epinephrine, norepinephrine. I always say it's being in the back seat of a taxi when you're late for a meeting and you're stuck in traffic and you're like, you know, what isn't feeling terrible? Your heart's pounding, you can't breathe, you feel like you're gonna pass out, your head hurts. You know, this is the fight or flight syndrome. That is a reactive process. So why would a type A personality develop heart disease? Because they're living in the fight or flight. When you meditate, that doesn't happen as often, right? It really doesn't.
No, it really doesn't. If I'm doing it, it really doesn't. And the people around me see it. And if I'm not doing it, I'm right there. It's like I'm here and I'm not moving. Everything is crazy here. I'm just not moving with it. But if I'm not doing it is miraculous. It just happens. All of a sudden I realized I would have absolutely been like moving all over the place if I didn't.
It's not that you don't feel it, it's a dimmer
It's just
switch.
different.
It's a dimmer switch. And so you have the moment to process it. You don't react to it. You stop. And you know what happens? You breathe. Now, the first thing that happens during a panic attack, during a fight or flight episode, is you start hyperventilating. That is the first thing that happens. And when that happens, it changes the entire milieu. Your arteries clamp down, your blood pressure goes up, and the story continues. If you process, you never get that trigger. So instead of hyperventilating, you just have a moment to breathe. And when that happens, you can actually think, you can calm down the fight or flight response, you don't have to feel that way, and you realize there's nothing you're gonna do when you're stuck in traffic. You're gonna get there when you get there. And that's it.
Great.
Sorry.
Thank you so much for accentuating the message about high rates of cardiovascular disease in women, because like menopause, it's, you know, the treatment and the prevention is not out there. So my question actually for both of you is, and I saw that study about the telomeres and I thought that was fantastic. Knowing that there isn't as much scientific research around women's health in general, has there been a study or studies done yet showing the meditation with just women, females? And
The difference, you're saying the difference between men and women in meditating?
We're just studies on.
Even on women, like, you know, just in terms of the impact around prevention around cardiovascular.
The study that is being done on PTSD and suicidality, and that has a cohort of about 75 women, specifically women, that's being done. We're active, I don't know if you've ever heard of the Family Justice Centers here in New York City. That's for women who are survivors of domestic violence and sexual assault. So we received a grant and we've taught about 1,000 women. And we are now starting to do, it's difficult to ask these women to participate in any study. It's, they're very understandably afraid, concerned about anything, but that's our next step to do that.
There was a really small study at Cedars-Sinai that was, I mean, very small. It might have been like 20 women on hot flashes. Remember, I got obsessed with this? there was and TM improved hot flashes. The most challenging thing is, you know, one day, maybe we'll recruit everyone, but it's always who and when and how and to validate it. But I think that to understand and to know that the mechanism of hot flashes isn't linear exactly, but that parasympathetic triggering and that decrease in the sympathetic, and actually vasodilatation of the arteries, and that whole mechanism can decrease hot flashes, that TM has been shown to be helpful. But it wasn't done in a large study. It was a really small one. Like everything else with women.
Yeah.
I want to thank you both because we're gonna call it a night. But you have it.
So
Yeah. Because everybody will get a thank you email, but in there's going to be a bunch of information. Please open it up because Suzanne is going to put.
So we launched this technology company with the idea of equity and access to care for all women across the country. I'm headed out to northern Arizona, Pine Top Sholo, which is a Navajo region, tomorrow to launch this platform with primary care providers to give women access to preventive cardiology care. This makes me a little teary. This has been my baby. Part of this platform is designed for women, for all women. It's called My Adesso. Adesso is Italian, the language of love in the heart, and it means now. And I keep saying if the time is not now, I don't know when it is. Everyone needs to define what their own now is to make their life as big and bold and beautiful as they want. And I would love to share My Adesso with all of you. It's really a learning journey about diet and exercise and menopause and stress and sleep and TM, and a really personalized prescription that you create on your own. And we're really starting with women now, and I would love to share with the
So
Wise.
it's just going to be a link that you.
We'll give you a link
Okay.
with Wise and Wonderful Women. It'll be for you guys specifically, and it would be great to have you on board.
Great.
Thank you.